Okay, guys, this will be Sakura's first actual video. I excuse the quality, and it's super windy, so I went ahead and decided just to do a voiceover because the wind's just really nasty. Um, so we are in the outdoor arena because this is where she's at for now while they get used to the herd, and she is unfortunately out with Rocco, and also in heat, so it's making things a little difficult right now. But I'm still today just kind of pushing buttons, figuring out what the previous owners has actually done with her and where all the holes are in her training. And as you'll see when I get ready to start her here, um, lunging, which she did kind of the same thing in the round pen the other day that I wasn't able to get a video of. And she gets pretty reactive to the whip. She's not afraid of it, she doesn't have any issues with it. However, when I really use it to move her off, she gets a little uptight, as you'll see here in just a second. She doesn't really want to go away from Rocco, which is understandable. So we just kind of keep some pressure on her, keep her moving. Really, what I'm looking for is just for her to walk. She's getting a little stubborn here, a little sticky, and then she gets a little overreactive. Now, the other day when I was in the round pen with her, she also likes to kind of come into your space, kick out, be pretty disrespectful. So that was the only time she did it this time. She kind of pushed into me. I kind of whacked her a little bit with the whip there in the middle. And then she continues to just kind of be a little bit too reactive, really pushy to get back over to her buddy, pulling on the lead. So I'm not really looking for her to run. At her age, I don't really want her looping hard like that on the lunge line, and to where I have to pull on her. It's just not good for her legs. So, um, really, I'm just trying to finish this little bitty session here real quick, try to get her to go the other direction, and she's still being super, super cranky about it. So, eventually, what I end up doing is going ahead and stopping our lunging progress, and then just kind of trying to make her think. And you can see she kind of shorts me on the circle there when she's on the opposite side of Rocco. She wants to come in at him. So I got to kind of push her out, and then she pulls to him. So it's kind of an all over the place lunge. It's not very pretty by any means. However, this is only our second time working together. So, along with the added stress of her wanting to be by her friends and the immaturity of her age and her brain, she's also a little confused as to what I'm asking her. She's pretty sensitive about the whip. Like when I step in front of her drive line to try and get her to slow, if the whip's out there, she gets really kind of worked up about it. So we're trying to see what exactly she's had done with her as far as how her previous owners lunched her, how they use the whip, things like that. So right here she's just kind of being stubborn, a little sticky, so I just kind of keep pushing on her a little bit. And she's still being just a little bit pulling on me too much. I really would like her to just come down a little bit. I'm not asking for a lope or a trot. I really would prefer just to walk because I'm not trying to wear her out. All I'm really wanting her to do is just kind of get the hang of changing directions, yielding her hindquarters. And so at some point here, she goes a little further than where the camera reaches, and she gets behind the barrel the camera's propped up on. So that's when I decided I was like, okay, we'll pull her in, make her think. And here she gets a little testy. I don't want her butt, so I definitely reprimand her there, which she way overreacts to. So then she really starts kind of firing off and just kind of running in a blind circle. And this is not what I want at all. So I switch hands and I'm going to attempt to slow her down. And as you see, as I try to get in front of her, she actually gets more worked up. So she does stop finally right here. This is when she goes off the camera. So I'm going to work on pulling her in, getting her to calm down a little bit. And then, so I decide to take her in back over to the middle and just kind of work on getting her brain thinking so she's not so reactive to everything that I'm asking her. So here brought her back into the middle. And I'm really just kind of trying to get her to calm down, think about what she's doing, get her head back on right, because it was the same thing the other day in the round pen. She just really, as soon as that whip came out, and as soon as I put a little bit of pressure on her, her little bit of attitude come out, her age showed a little bit, but it also showed some of the holes in the training that she's had since she's come to me. Her groundwork has been very tiptoed around, so she's not spooky, she's not super reactive, but if you get loud, her response is to get louder, and that is not what I'm looking for. So I just take some time here and kind of work on teaching her to yield her shoulders over, teaching her to yield her hindquarters, just general body movements and letting me have control. She gets pretty sticky, and I haven't had the filly long enough to understand if this is her just really not wanting to listen or this is what she does when she's not sure. So the longer that I get to work with Sakura, the better I'll understand her little quirks, how she works, things like that. So we're really just taking the time here, kind of making her think, putting her head back on, letting her realize that this really isn't that big of a deal, and we don't need to run around like a crazy pony. So she kind of keeps getting stuck, and I don't really want to whack and keep my hand up, pushing on her face, because I really don't want her head shy. And I don't really want to whack her with the whip to get her to move over, seeing as how she's already really, really reactive to it. So I just kind of keep tapping her, and then I get to the point where I know it's just irritating enough, and I just kind of stay there until she gives into it and she figures it out. And this little girl, like I said, she's only 3, and she was just started this year. She just turned 3 April 20th, and her previous owners have ridden her at a walk and a bareback walk trot, just a little. She's probably had a total of 3 rides. To me, I would not ride her right now because I just don't feel like her groundwork is solid enough for anybody to be on her back. She also doesn't have the mindset to handle stressful situations yet, as you just seen. As soon as things get too stressful or she's not really sure what's going on, she really starts to panic. And so until I build that trust with her and give her the ability to deal with situations, I probably won't be on her back. However, I will be starting next week lunging her in the round pen with the saddle on, just so she can stay used to it. But other than that, she's really got a good head. She's really smart, and she does try really, really hard. It just takes her a second to kind of understand what you're asking her without getting too loud. She's a little dull. She's a little heavy in the hand. She kind of hangs on you. So these will be things that I'm working on throughout her training. And for right now, it's really just the basics. So she keeps kind of wanting to walk off and kind of go to the side there, check out where her friend is. And I'm just kind of using that to ensure that, she's going to turn that hip. And we're just kind of taking it slow, letting her figure it out. And she's getting it. Now, she has this habit of wanting to pivot on her hind end when I go to tap her hind. So, as soon as she starts getting it, she's picking it up pretty quickly. She's understanding, she's figuring it out. And she's starting to relax. And the more she relaxes, the better she's listening. Now, you're going to have to excuse Rocco. Rocco is the little dark bay Arabian there to the right. He's a camera hog, and I think a couple of times he even gets in the way of this video. So, I'll probably just skip over that when it happens. Okay, so I did a little bit more backing work with her, a little bit more hip work, and now I started sending her out again. And this time it's much better. She's not running around, she's not overreacting, she's using the thinking side of her brain. She's like, okay, this isn't so bad. So, the only time she really picks up speed is when I go to ask her to stop. And like I said, I think she really gets a little concerned about the whip. I've never watched her previous owners work her, so I don't really understand or know how they use their equipment or anything like that. I don't like going into horses assuming. I just kind of go in thinking they're all kind of the same. They don't know anything. Keeps me safer, and I think it makes it easier for them. So here, she's not really reacting too much. She's pretty nervous when I start putting pressure on her, but she figures it out, and she lunges around very nicely, and we have nice Rocco here becoming a camera hog. So here, and Rocco will quickly move out of the way here in a moment. So she's still walking around really nicely. She's getting kind of stuck over where Rocco is, which is fine. She's kind of wanting to be by her friends, and I'm just going to keep pressure on her when she gets over there, let her know this isn't what we're doing. We need to be able to walk in a full circle. And she's being polite about it. And she still kind of stops. I just kind of push her along. And then she kind of gets to the point where it's like, okay, I understand. And then she walks her full circle. So it ends up being a really nice session. I really wasn't looking for too much. I don't want her working super hard on the lunge line yet. I really am just trying to use it to get her to move when I want her to, stop and turn when I want her to, and to realize that we don't have to go crazy horse every time something happens. And so this was one of her really, really nice stops. She really paid attention. So I gave her a second here before I sent her off again, let her think about it, because this is what I was looking for. And so you can see she gets kind of nervous about that whip there, because like at the beginning, as soon as it kind of started swinging at her, she was just really, really, really concerned and would just take off. So now she's realized that I remember this. I'm just going to walk around here, move a little bit, kind of keep her going. She's still trying to stop. But she finally decides that this isn't so bad and keeps going. So I was pretty happy with her progress today. And then the work that she did. And as she's just so willing, once you give her a moment and let her really think things through, I have come to learn that she's one of those horses that's very, very quiet until there's just too much going on, and she's kind of an explosive mare. So we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on her. But the more and more I work with her, the more quirks I learn. And there's the first time she didn't stop. She kept walking. I was very happy. So, and then when I went to ask her to change directions, kind of caught her sleeping, and she kind of reacted a little much. So she stopped though eventually, and then I let her rest. So she's still definitely learning, and she's still pretty immature in the brain. But I also think that from everything I've seen so far, she's not really been taught yet how to deal with pressure when it becomes too much or it becomes too loud. So when I really get big and I really get after her, she really kind of stresses out about it. So that's going to be one of our goals to work on over the next few weeks, is just really handling herself and handling her emotions when things get stressful. So, and it'll be a long process for her because she has not had much done with her at all. But she continues doing really, really well. So again, I'm going in here and I'm going to ask her to change her direction. She moved off good. She wasn't getting too sticky. Rocco kind of gets in our way a little bit, but she pushes past him. She keeps going. She's paying attention. So I'm super happy with this. So I let her just kind of walk around a little bit. This time all I had to do was point. I was extremely pleased. So she picks up things very, very quickly, and I do believe that she understands what I'm asking. Here again, I go to switch my hands with my thing, and she gets pretty nervous about it. So I'm kind of disliking, I think, the way that, from what I see, that they've worked with her. Um, kind of seems to be more on a pull basis, and I think that's why she's a little heavier than what I would like. Um, she's not really paying attention to me to read body language. She's really just waiting for somebody to pull her in a certain direction. So that'll definitely be another thing that we're going to be working on, is just getting her to kind of pay attention. So now I'm going to skip past Rocco because he decides to take the camera again. He doesn't move very far. And right now I'm really just trying to desensitize her a little bit to this whip. And I'm not swinging it very hard. I'm not swinging it very fast. However, the wind's blowing pretty good, so when it does come up, it makes that little bit of a whistle sound without me moving it too much. And that's really what's getting to her. So we just kind of work on that for a few minutes until she can just handle the little bit of pressure and sound that comes from it. And again, she's really not watching my body language. She's really not, she just hasn't been taught to pay attention because I'm pretty relaxed. It's an easy swing. I'm not asking her to move her feet. And but all she knows is that whip's moving up and down, it's making that noise, she's supposed to go. So I'm gonna work with her and just kind of figuring out that it doesn't need to be just because you hear this scary sound that we need to move our feet and take off. Let's think it through. Is it hurting you? That kind of thing. So she's doing pretty good with it. By the end of this part, she gets pretty comfortable with it. Can't get too loud, but I'm not gonna push her too far today. So the little bit that she accepts, I'm okay with. So I'm still kind of just waiting on her to stop moving, stand still for a few seconds, just kind of learn that it's okay. And then once she figures that out, she gets pretty good about it. And she's really not concerned about the whip itself. Like I said, it's more of just that sound. It's new, or it's something that's been used to push her forward a lot. So, and here I just kind of take up on her a little bit because I don't want her getting too excited, moving off in a big circle, because we were just working on getting her to move from the whip into her lunge. So I don't want her to think that just because I'm moving this thing, she needs to go and walk off. So I'm just kind of keeping her head tipped up so she is more inclined to kind of keep her feet still. I don't want to stop her from moving. So here's where she starts kind of realizing that it's really not a big deal. I'm not asking her to move off. And when I do want to ask her to move off, I'm going to put a little bit more energy into it. So she's pretty sensitive, which I like. I'm used to working with Arabs and things like that, so the cold-blooded horses are a little bit more difficult to work with, in my opinion, than hot horses. But and again, we have our beautiful Rocco. So now that we're done with the lunge part, I'm really just working on her right side, which I didn't work so much on before the lunge. I worked on her left side a little bit, and as far as yielding her hindquarters, yielding her shoulders. So really right now I'm just kind of doing it on the right side just to make sure to keep it even. And I wanted to do it after we did some of the lunge work. So that's what I'm doing right now, even though Rocco is blocking the view as the beautiful creature that he is. So here I'm just still continuing to do what I was doing earlier. We're still just kind of working on some shoulder work. And again, I'm not really trying to get in her face. I'm not really trying to get loud to get her to move. So just using a little bit of pressure, a little bit of release, nothing too heavy right now because I'm still trying to learn where her buttons are, where her limits are, figuring out how much she knows and how much of it is just mere being stubborn. So, but she's starting to get the hang of it. And then at some point here, my camera falls. There it is. So I kind of lost everything else after this, but it was about a 30-minute session. And yeah, so it's unfortunate because she was doing really, really well, but we ended it very positively, and she was very polite about the whole thing. So I'm pretty happy about how the session turned out. I would have definitely liked her to have been a little farther along in her groundwork, and when I bought her, I was kind of led to believe she was. I mean, I worked her a little bit at the barn I got her from. Um, and she did okay, but chalked it up to being a new person. But the more and more I work her, the more holes I see. And it could just be the fact that, I train my horses one way and other people train their horses a different way. So here is the end of our session, and here is the lovely Sakura checking out her halter, her lunch line, just kind of checking all the gear out, hanging out. So she was a big champ, and she's also a diva, so she loves the camera. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask in the comments below. And until next time, guys, keep riding and keep working.